Hello and a very warm welcome back to the channel of Motorbike Nonsense. Now you might have already guessed I'm not in my usual lay-by where I do bike reviews. I've come to nature. I've come out to my local green lanes where there are beautiful ponds, ancient woodland, the sound of birds saying hello to each other, and the distant yelp of posh people being kicked off the back of their expensive horses. But also today we've got the gentle thrum of the Yamaha Crossplane 2 parallel twin as found in this, the Tenere 700. This is my review of the bike. This video we're going to mostly be off-road, doing some green laning on it. I've already done some on-road riding in my first ride, so click up whichever way it is for that. Let's get cracking. I'm going to show you around it and take it for a ride and try not to fall off because it's very, very wet. Not nice. Right, let's quickly talk about the Tenere 700 and the specs and the price and all that stuff. Just over 10 grand is what it costs. I think it was about 9 grand when it first came out back in 2019, but it's been fairly significantly updated back in 2023. It got a much sexier vertical dashboard. I don't know if you can see there, and you can actually have that look at two different themes. There is a circular on-roady one here of a rev counter. It also got a USB-A socket down there because I think everyone was fitting aftermarket ones, and there was no provision for sat-nav power. There is now. It also got some slightly new paint schemes, a redesigned rear brake lever, and a wiring option for a quick shifter. You still have to buy the quick shifter as an accessory, but you can now fit one. Right, let's talk about the looks. Quad LEDs up front. It looks a little bit Dakar-y to me. It has got the fabled Yamaha indicators, which will probably fall off and need to be put back on a million times. But yeah, it's menacing. 21-inch front wheel. It comes with Scorpion Rally STR tyres, which are pretty good in the dry off-road, I found, but a little bit slippery when it is, yeah, it's a bit passion daily today, if that's not too bad taste. The Brembo brakes up front, they've got quite a nice soft initial bite, which is kind of what you want off-road, and I'm a bit of an amateur off-road, as we'll get to in this video, and this has been a really friendly beast. The power from the 690cc parallel twin is meted out really gently. It's not a brute, but it can be quite fun on road. 73 horsepower from that, and 68 newton meters of torque. You get a 16-litre tank, which is good for about 220 miles of range, but now this has been so successful for Yamaha, they've done a million special editions, some of which have bigger fuel tanks, better suspension. This is just the basic one, the, you know, Tesco value Tenere, I suppose. Now, the suspension on this one is reasonably basic. It's got 210mm of wheel travel at the front, 200 at the back, and I don't know if you can see past all the goop in there, but there is a remote preload adjuster, though your hand's going to get pretty muddy doing it. Interestingly, on the accessories list, I think this is interesting, you can pay 3 grand and you can get an Öhlins rear shock and Öhlins front forks, which is quite cool, but by that point you've probably just bought one of the more expensive Teneres. Seat height is just over 34 inches, which is 875mm. You can get a lower seat for 190 quid, and the whole kit and caboodle weighs 205 kilograms wet, fully fueled, ready to fall off in that. Now, I'm not a proper off-roadist, as I'll keep saying, but yeah, I think the rear subframe is welded on, and I think the exhaust hanger is welded on as well. So if you do drop it and bend it, that's probably going to be a little bit expensive. Now, let's quickly talk about the electronics. I'll say quickly because, yeah, this has got fewer electronics than Manan's Coffin. It's got a 5-inch TFT dash there, and you can switch the ABS modes by clicking the fabled Yamaha switch wheel, which I really don't like, the scroll wheel, sorry. I've got it on my MT10, and then ABS mode, and you can have ABS on, rear ABS off, so supermoto as KTM would call it, or fully off, and you have to click, wait for it to go grey, and then hold, and then it will turn it off. Handily though, if you've been off-roading and you get back onto a road, you can just press this button down here, and it puts the ABS straight back on. That's it, that's the electronics. You've got a trip, you've got MPG, coolant temperature, air temperature. That is your lot. No traction control, I can't even say it, which is good. No IMU. It's just a very basic bike that's designed to go and get muddy. Right, we're going to start with a bit of an easy green lane. I'm just going to go in and turn the rear ABS off because it's got 3 ABS modes, this bike. I've accidentally just reset the trip because I'm a complete numpty. There you go, ABS mode. Rear ABS off, off-road, and then I have to press and hold it, I think. There we go. I wish I wasn't wearing winter gloves. Already spun it up accidentally, but yeah, standing up on this feels really quite natural, and you're going to be laughing at this video because this green lane is basically a road. But you know, it has been raining a lot, so there might be some challenges. And later on, look at that log is steaming. I did a steaming log this morning. But anyway, I'm a complete novice really when it comes to off-roading. I've done a little bit here and there. I've done a couple of days at, well, I did 2 days I think it was, at Honda Off-Road Centre on Africa Twins. Now, this bike, one thing it doesn't have that its rivals have is traction control. But on the road, I've not needed it. Even in the wet, it finds really impressive grip despite being on reasonably, well, they're not really knobbly tyres, they're Pirelli Scorpion STR tyres. And they find really good grip in the wet on the road. Usually I'm a bit wary of knobbly tyres on the road when you're gassing it on a bike with a reasonable amount of torque. This feels absolutely fine so far, but to be honest, apart from a few bits of mud, my MT10 could have done this. But I don't know, there's something about being on a bike that is designed for off-road ergonomically that makes this just feel really enjoyable, being able to weight the massive foot pegs. I haven't taken the rubbers out the foot pegs, but I don't expect I'll be having many grip problems with what I'm doing. Rear brake is actually quite well positioned, even with my thick, tall kind of motocrossy adventure boots on. I feel like I can move around on this and kind of grip the tank with my knees. So far, so fine. The suspension is soft, but it's not really being challenged down here, is it? So okay, it's getting a bit slipperier up here, a bit more uphill. Has it been raining recently? Of course it has. Does the Pope have a gold toilet seat? Yes, he does. I have to say one thing I'm in second, I'm really appreciating, is the fueling. The fueling on this from a closed throttle to an open throttle is actually pretty good. There's no big yelpy jump. I can be, I'm pretty tense because I'm new to this, but I can be pretty accurate with the throttle. Through the puddle, through the puddle. This feels really good to me so far. It feels planted, and apart from a bit of a wheel spin earlier on, unintimidating. It doesn't feel too heavy or bulky. I used to come down here on my K12, my KTM 1290 Super Adventure S, and I only had 19-inch front and very kind of road biased tyres, and yeah, that felt a bit wayward at times up here, a bit awkward. Alright, this is beautiful, isn't it? Sorry, bike review. One thing I mentioned on the road on this bike is that the front brakes have got quite a soft bite, but that's actually what you want when you're doing this, when you're using it off-road. You don't want a super sharp initial bite, you want to kind of find grip and then yeah, go from there. This looks pretty muddy. Yeah, okay, we've got slippery now. Gonna try and sit back a bit, find some grip at the back and just keep it going. Okay, slight regret now, but no, the Tenere is looking after me so far. I want to get in the middle, I think it's a bit less slippery. Down the gully of water. Okay, don't stop, pick a route, mind the big twig, hit the big twig. Yeah, this is harder. This is harder than I thought. It's a bit slippery. It's very, very slippery. I'm just going to stick in this rut. Yeah, if I make it through this without dropping it, I'm going to be quite impressed, to be honest. Oh, there goes the front. Keep going. This actually feels pretty good. It's just, I mean, it feels like I'm riding on a slug's back at the moment. Yeah, this feels so good. It's so natural standing up on as well. Loads of confidence, loads of feel through the pegs. You can weight the pegs nice and easily. I really like riding it, and I know if you're a pro level biker doing adventure stuff, you might want one of the slightly more upgraded versions with better suspension and fuel and all the rest of it. But for me, sort of an affordable-ish bike to go out and go hacking on if I was a horse person. Oh, sand, excellent. This is really, really nice. It's really pleasant to ride, and while you might criticise the engine for being a bit gutless on the road at times when you're trying to do 5-car overtakes, out here it's really good. It's a good friend. Even as a tall bloke, the riding position feels natural standing up. Doesn't feel like the bars are in another time zone. And yeah, the grip from those tyres, as standard, is really good. But yeah, for the sort of riding I like, for the sort of greenlaning I like doing, nothing too challenging. Just a few occasional childish splashes to get my boots dirty. This is great. And I think I've said this on the channel before, that if you've never done greenlaning or taken a motorbike off-road, don't be intimidated, because certainly where I live, there's lots of really steady lanes like this. They're still a challenge, they'll still get you kind of breathing hard, they'll still get you remembering that you've not turned the ABS back off. Whoops, that is one thing it does do. Resets the ABS setting every time you cycle the ignition for safety reasons, which I think is actually more dangerous, because then you start riding and you want to lock the back brake and you can't. So yeah, Tenere 700, I like it to ride. It makes a complete novice feel at home off-road. It's not too heavy, it's not too powerful, it's got decent tyres on it as standard. Bottomed out the suspension a little bit through there. Right, I'm getting cocky now. I'm going to slide off and see you in A&E. Alrighty, let's talk about on-road stuff. And this is where I think the Tenere is quite cool, because I'm back on road. I haven't got a million driving modes. I just pressed my ABS on button. I pressed my ABS on button. I think I might have to be stopped. Let's press my ABS on button. There we go, you have to be stopped. And now I can go and admire the silver Ferrari California parked under a tree load of sap. But yeah, on road this bike is it's pretty decent, to be honest, for as far as these things go. I did more on-road riding in my first ride review, where I pushed it a bit harder. Now I've got tyres caked in mud, I'm not gonna, but it actually feels okay up to a point. It's really just when you start adding, like, I don't know, lean angle, the tyres and the suspension feel like you're fine, and then it tips in really quite alarmingly, and that isn't a nice feeling. But as I said, I think, or as I will be about to say, apparently you can change the suspension and it fixes that. Brakes on the road are actually more than powerful enough once you get over the initial soft bite. Now Yamaha does offer a version of the Tenere called, I think it's the Explore, which is way more on-road biased. It's got a bigger screen, it's got some of the accessories added which are more road focused, lower seat height and all the rest of it. I'm not sure it'd be my first bike to pick for like a big long distance tour, just because it doesn't really have the weather protection and it doesn't have the accoutrements that I would really want. There you go, ABS was useful on those leaves as an ambulance came the other way. I would probably be picking something a bit more road biased, probably a Tracer or something if you want to stay in the Yamaha family. This is more for like, I want to go on a tour, but you know, spend 50% of the time doing trails in Spain or somewhere like that. Stick some crash protection on it and it'd be pretty much good to go. And finally, I guess one thing that is a bit flowery, I did comment on it on the first ride review, it's just lovely having a bike that will get you out on crappy wet roads, because actually I've got blue skies, I've got a motorbike underneath me, and that's good for you. That is good for you. So yeah, Tenere should be available on prescription for those winter blues, frankly, while I go down one of Surrey's many famous sunken lanes, some of which appeared in the Witcher film, TV series, whatever. Another thing that I mentioned in my first ride review, which is still true, is that this bike doesn't have the quick shifter fitted, and you do want to blip your downshift because you can lock the back wheel up on greasy roads. But that's standard motorcycling fare, really. Right, now we're off the lanes into town, and I'm going to talk quickly about the Tenere 700's urban manners. They're fine. It's a really easy bike to ride. The clutch is nice and light, the back brake just works nicely, and yeah, you sit up high so you can see over other stuff, and frankly, yeah, the indicator switch is easy to reach, the hoot is easy to find, and that blue house is for sale. It's £1.4 million, but it is quite bloody nice, and you'd feel quite important if you live there, but I bet the Wi-Fi reception's crap. But yeah, Tenere 700 is easy to ride, doesn't have cruise control, that's not even an option. Are you mad? I've enjoyed bombing around. It's quite narrow as well, so filtering on it is like stuffing a knife into a piece of butter repeatedly with a sick grin on your face. But anyway, let's go back to a green lane and do a conclusion.
Right, so I've been living with the Tenere 700 for about a week and a half now, and I've mostly done off-road riding on it, which is very unusual for me because I'm a proper tarmac licker, I suppose is probably the phrase. But yeah, what is this bike for, really? It is for the muddy stuff, and it does a really good job of making novices like me feel kind of competent off-road, even in these horrifically slippery conditions. It might not look like much on camera, but it's like ice here. it has given me the confidence to have a go. And the fact that it is reasonably affordable at £10,100 means I'm not that scared of binning it. I'm not that scared of dropping it and breaking something, as I might be with my old big heavy KTM 1290 Super Adventure. Out on the road, it's got enough poke to do most things. You have to knock it down a few gears for overtakes and things like that. But that CP2 engine is great. We know it from the MT-07. It's got torque, it's got grunt. And frankly, I don't really think this needs traction control. Even on these tyres on the road in the wet, I've been giving it big berries everywhere, and it's been absolutely fine. Now, negatives: screen, buffety, rubbish, but I'm 6'3". All screens are buffety and rubbish for me. Secondly, there are other options in the Tenere 700 range now, which are better suited for off-roading. There are versions with better off-road suspension, there are versions with better on-road manners, with a lower seat height and a bigger screen and things like that. So I'm not sure if you would not be tempted to step up from the basic one of these to one of the more kind of well-rounded versions of it. But yeah, I like it. It is a great bike. It's made me go out, explore and have fun. And frankly, if I had space in the garage for a bike that could do a bit of on-road and a bit of off-road, I'll probably pick one of these. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. If you've made it this far, give us a big muddy like and subscribe to the channel, because I've got plenty more bike reviews coming soon. I want you to go down to the comments and leave me the Japanese word for bog monster, because that's what I am. Not because I've pooed myself, because it's boggy. Don't be puerile. I think I might be projecting.